Hello, and thanks for joining us today for the Unitrends Tech Demo, Take the Ransom Out of Ransomware. I'm Kevin Collins from Unitrends, and I've got Jordan Warsoff, one of our solution engineers, with me today, and he'll be taking us through the presentation. Don't forget, one lucky attendee will be walking away with a $500 Amazon gift card. We'll contact the winner via email after the demo. Before we get started, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. This session will be recorded, and after the event, you'll receive an email with a link to the on-demand version of the demo. I would also encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation. You can do so by typing them into the Q&A box in the bottom right of the player. We'll answer your questions at the end of the session. At this point, I'll turn it over to Jordan. Enjoy the presentation, and Jordan, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin, and good afternoon for everyone. So, real quick, what I want to kind of do is talk about ransomware. We've all been seeing our news headlines, the articles. Here's some, just kind of wrapping up what's happened in 2016, and they were right. The worst is still yet to come. Ransomware is proving to be very profitable and very effective. You've even seen or heard here in FBI, honestly, oftentimes they advise people just to pay the ransom. You can go into multiple security experts are saying the whole idea of we don't negotiate with terrorists or criminals is a thing of the past. Ransomware, our information is so vital that it turns out that getting that data back is just as important. But then the issue arises, how much can you trust them? How much do you trust giving your Bitcoins to someone who needs them? But a lot of security experts are saying you need to practice how to purchase Bitcoins and give the Bitcoins to people because there's a time limit when it comes to getting and giving Bitcoins. If you're not prepared to sell it, you may run out of time and have your files encrypted indefinitely anyway. So before we really get into the depths of what to watch out for or what to be careful of, let's talk about what is ransomware. So ransomware is a malware that's been around for a while, but it's the idea of basically encrypting individual files with I believe usually an AES-256 encryption, so the private and public key. So your file is encrypted with the public key, but the private key is kept by the criminals in order to decrypt your data. So your files are useless to you. They're chained down and completely unencryptable without, months or years of time trying to brute force a code. Payment has begun around $200 to $500 in Bitcoin value, but it has increasingly gone up with specified and specialized attacks. You can see here's an example of one of the original crypto lockers back in 2013, asking about $300 in crypto key using an RSA 2048. So here's the interesting thing we kind of mentioned. It's not new. The thing is, though, recent advances have made it a much larger risk with the advent of more accessibility for users, access to network shares. Original ransomware is kind of more scareware. It wasn't permanent. It was easy to remove or avoid. But in integrating these encryption techniques along with the capability to go undetected, to scramble the source code, to remove fingerprint identifiers, all sorts of other things made it difficult to be able to make ransomware effective. Not to mention, collecting the fees was always trouble, because if you gave a credit card number, you had a bank account, which you could easily be followed by Interpol or the authorities. So now today, Bitcoin offers a great way to anonymously send and receive money, and the community is organizing around that. There's all sorts of variations. The most popular one by far is CryptoLocker. It's the one we saw the picture of a little bit earlier. You can see it's the red. Torrent Locker, Crypto Wall, all sorts of other options, variants, copies that will be able to basically encrypt your data and kind of hold it hostage for you to be able to pay. The RSA 2048 is one of the common ones. AES-256 is a great private-public key pairing that's commonly used that's able to secure the data. They also are able to find all sorts of different exploits to be able to connect to the infected computer. Tor is common, sometimes using HTTPS or even just hard-coded URL to connect back and perform and inject the details. So utilizing Tor, which provides that anonymous routing, and Bitcoin for anonymous payment provides a way for hackers to kind of get away scot-free with it. And it requires both that public key and the private key. The private key is what they hold hostage. It's a unique and randomly generated public key, so you can't use someone else's private key to decrypt yours. And that's how you're going to be able to kind of utilize encryption, the strength of encryption against you. So what are the most common vectors? Email. Email tends to be one of the most common infection vectors. You'll see that what happens is the user will be asked to enable macros on a file. It might even be just a deploy an executable, PDF vulnerabilities were used. And what's happening is with the more targeted approach with CryptoLocker, it will impersonate. They'll kind of do, they'll break into your system and read a lot of emails and find out how C-level employees will compose email. And they will write an email that sounds like the composer that they are spoofing, send an email with a Word document. They will believe and trust the sender, and then all of a sudden they will be infected, and all network shares they have will start, all files, all directories that are connected to that user will be encrypted. There's a lot of exploit kits that are usable. So a lot of common ones are user interaction, but there are some holes, day zero exploits, and all sorts of other things that a hacker or hacker organization could use to be able to get in and exploit those vulnerabilities and encrypting without you knowing. So making sure that you're kind of protected both human error and in the technological error are ways that you could potentially be CryptoLocker. And this is all sorts of viruses. This could be not just unique to CryptoLocker, this just happens to be one of the most profitable ones today. And ransomware is continuing to advance. There's Get One Free. They're adding Mac vulnerability. It's they're localizing and purposely attacking specific customers. Even the threat to leak data is a common one where health or compliance organizations will have to pay, or not only will they refuse to decrypt your data, but they will release the data publicly. This hasn't been too popular yet, but it's starting to, pirates and hackers are starting to realize the capabilities of really cranking the vice and turning up the pressure on companies whose data is not only valuable to have for themselves, but valuable to make sure it doesn't leak to other companies. I'll look at the Sony hack, for example, where the data was released and how damaging that was to the company. So that's a lot of scary stuff. It's really risky. There's a lot of threat. There's a lot of potential for harm and personal harm, business harm, a lot of things. So what do you have to do to make sure you not only never have to pay, but that you're able to continue running your business? And I'm not a big sports person, but I tried to make sure they make great analogies. The whole point is they have to play defense, you have to play offense, and most importantly, you can't forget about your bench. So kind of going with the offense first, you have to start with the basic protection. Make sure your software is up to date. Make sure you're using virus detection, antivirus prevention, and not just the days of like McAfee and calling it a day. You need to specifically explore and research what you're using to protect your environment and your users from exploitation and other manipulation that may cause and infect your users or even your edge computing and other technologies. One of the most important things we see is educating users, regularly training your end users on clicking and opening emails, watching out for obvious, not so obvious file extensions, even websites. There was a great hack that many Gmail users who were, big techies were falling for because it wasn't an HTTPS site. It opened a new web page that had data/text, and then it looked like gmail.com. And if you weren't careful, you wouldn't realize that it wasn't actually authenticated, and you're actually putting your information into a form that was being sent back to hackers. So it's a great way to be able to grab passwords, which then opens up your environment, especially in the day of cloud. You don't need to be on site to be able to access all the files. bada bing, bada boom, you've got an encrypted network share or file server or whatever the case may be. On the other hand, you also need to worry about your defense. Make sure your network is protected. Make sure even that you have some policies that are not allowing binaries to run specific installation paths. Temp is common. There are several others too. ActiveX content is something that we've seen some success in, but they're starting to find new exploits. These are all great, but it's the same idea that comes with any white hat approach. All it takes is one tiny little hole to become infested. We're here on the white hat side trying to protect ourselves by covering up as many holes and making it as big and as powerful as possible. But if there's just one leak, that's all it takes to bring down the entire interior. So that's kind of why your bench is incredibly viable and incredibly important. You can go into any technical webcast, you can go to any of these explanations we're trying to talk about how to combat ransomware, and the biggest thing you hear is the best option you have is to bring back your backups. Without a proper backup solution, you're almost required to pay the ransom. And they're starting to target, hackers are starting to target the backups too to make sure that you do have to pay. So you need a backup that is well-researched and well-versed in the ability to combat ransomware. I do happen to work at Unitrends, so here are some examples we've seen from our customers. Just simply by being able to have proper backups and performing through with them, it wasn't about the anti-malware software, it was simply a matter of making sure that you're protected, that you're doing your backups. So what are some good examples of proper backups? 3 copies, 2 different types of media, 1 off-site. The off-site is very important, and multiple copies is super important. Some people are even purposefully keeping data off the network, like on a hard drive or tape, to ensure that there is no risk of them being infected, with passively being infected. The best practices are kind of what these are the best practices we usually see for the best success in protecting yourself from ransomware. Making sure you back up everything. Anything that you don't back up is something that you can afford to lose. That you're okay with losing it completely, you're okay, it has no value to you, and if it's lost, that's okay. Replication and some kind of data protection that's continuous to be able to provide that RTO and RPO is great to be able to do that, but you could potentially back up the malware with your data. You need to make sure that you have some kind of archive that's going to be physically isolated, that's non-executable. You can use that to go back in time because some ransomware now are hibernating. They'll hibernate for a long period of time and be triggered at a later date, in which case your backups might be ruined because you've had it for so long. You can also create bare metal images of your core systems so you can get back to a known state quickly. Bare metal, like a physical server where you can have the ISO and reboot from that. Also make sure that you have some kind of DR service. Maybe you can spin up your new VMs for those critical systems that you have backed up in case of those disasters. And most importantly, it's an idea of acting now. It's not a matter of if a hard drive fails. It's not a matter of if your network goes down. It's not a matter of if your power goes out. It's not a matter today if you're going to get infected with ransomware or some other virus. It's a matter of when. So making sure you're protected as soon as possible is vital. And frankly, backup is one of the only ways to guarantee that your business can continue after that kind of infection. Cloud is a common vector that is used to try to alleviate the potential problems that can come with ransomware and other viral infections. Make sure you have some kind of local backup for fast recovery, and then archiving, getting your data off-site that's automatic, that's not prone to human error, and that can be isolated in case of an infection. So you can sever off the primary, and the secondary will be okay and continue to run. When you're looking at backup solutions against ransomware, there's a few important things you need to make sure to watch out for. First is the instant recovery capability, making sure you can bring back those servers that you need to in those emergencies as quickly as possible while you're cleaning up your production, which can take anywhere from a couple hours to weeks. You want to make sure you can protect your entire environments, Windows, Windows servers, Apple, VMware, Hyper-V. You want to make sure that everything that you need to be able to protect is capable within the solution you're utilizing. And be wary of using solutions that are Windows-based. Windows is the most common vector that ransomware uses to encrypt. There is some Mac capabilities out there. I've not heard of extensive Linux ransomware attacks yet. So make sure that the solution is Linux-backed rather than Windows, because it could be that your entire backup system with the database that manages all of the data, information, and files could get encrypted, and in that scenario, you won't have the ability to be able to recover. And the most important piece about having a great backup and recovery plan is making sure that you can actually recover. If you've been doing all these backups and you try to recover them because you're infected with ransomware and it turns out you can't actually do it, then there's no point of even running through all those backups in the first place. Some kind of way you can test and verify how long your recovery will take, that you're able to be compliant, that you're able to accomplish everything you need to, is vital to ensuring that you can go on and continue with your business needs and that you can overcome the ransomware that infected you. Not to mention there's going to be a lot of audits that are going to start looking at that, having some way to prove your recoverability without actually having to go through it. And instead of saying, yeah, I'll do the testing, but knowing that you really don't want to, having this kind of tool to be able to verify your recovery is going to be almost required in the upcoming years to ensure that you're able to go on in case of any disaster that comes your way. So that's a lot about what ransomware can do and a lot of things we have to fear. How can Unitrends help? And this is just one option. I'm not going to say that Unitrends is the only way to fight ransomware. We pretty much hit all the points you need to ensure that you're going to be able to overcome what may occur with ransomware. Today, as you may or may not notice, we're in a new world order. It's the less is more world. IT has less time, less money, far more projects. I mean, you can tell me, but it sounds like it's been quite difficult out there for admins. Admins are more and more responsible for what's going on in our day and age, and yet have less and less resources comparatively to be able to accomplish it. Here, for example, looks like now is different, now it's accelerating. You can kind of see number of professionals has kind of stayed constant, whereas the servers and VMs and the data have only gone up. So here we've got all sorts of ways that we're required to do more without actually being able to have the access to those pieces. So you have to do more, which means you need more time, more effort, more money that you're not being given. So we talked, it's an increase in attacks. You need to make sure that you're able to handle that acceleration. You need solutions that are going to be able to scale to what you need and be able to manage more with less. And the downtime is destructive. American businesses were cost up $700 billion is the estimated cost to downtime. Majority of it was due to productivity loss, but revenue loss and the cost to fix were also contribution. One great example, Delta Airlines, back in August 2016, they had a data center outage, just a single data center outage, $150 million, just like that, from all the lost revenue and everything they had to do to fix it. We had a ton of flights that were canceled, a lot of issues, and a lot of productivity loss. The average cost of data center outage is $730,000. So what kind of solutions are out there to make sure you can do more with less and be able to combat and ideally not be chained to a ransomware payment or even being able to combat what other intrusions that come your way or outages. Apple, for example, an all-in-one integrated personal device has really kind of allowed us to do more with less. With one device, you're kind of able to do this all-in-one. You can have your phone, your camera, you're able to be productive thanks to your phone. And that's kind of what Apple has done. In our specific industry, Nutanix has been growing drastically with their hyper-converged approach, where instead of buying the servers and the storage and the networking and managing all of that independently, along with the hypervisor and the VMs, what if we put that all into one solution? What if you had one support line to call? What if you had one solution to figure out, one solution to scale? That's the exact idea. It's exactly how us as IT professionals are expected to have less and do more. We need a world where there's no finger pointing, there's less management. We're able to be flexible in our environment and what we want to do. We can have that uptime we need, more confidence in our ability to recover, and frankly, more free time. We shouldn't be having to work all these nights and weekends because of problems that are raised in the architecture or in the solutions we're using. Instead, it should be effective work and effective improvement. That's exactly what we're looking for, and that's the exact kind of thing Unitrends is trying to do. In the olden days, you used to have multiple vendors. That would finger point when there was an issue. You'd have multiple support calls, tons of time trying to work it out and figure it out. Whereas with us, the new world, what we're trying to do is one vendor, one hand to shake. There's less work. You rack it, you're already in the software. You don't have to do initializations, deployments, installations, and all of that. Easy to scale to the cloud to be able to protect yourself from ransomware attacks or to be able to reduce your RTO. Providing more security. Unitrends comes with built-in hardened Linux operating system, so you're not exposed as much to the ransomware that may apply to Windows-based solutions. Not to mention an amazing customer satisfaction team. Our support team can give you that confidence and those capabilities to be able to recover whatever disaster may occur. The olden days, you can kind of see, it was complicated. There was a lot of storage, virtualization, operating system, all sorts of software, hardware, recovery assurance you had to be capable of handling. And today, in the new world, one device. One device you have to manage, one device you have to understand, one device you have to architect. Bring it right to the cloud, bada bing, bada boom, you're good to go. And not to mention the support. Support is so vital for being able to come back from a disaster. And frankly, in the old world, you could potentially have up to 9 different vendors. You'd have to call in and be guided through and try to explain your situation multiple times, which I can imagine is, I know from being on the other side, is not that fun. So being able to have a way to quickly be able to call into one support line, get that 98% approval rating, that satisfaction, be able to move on with your recovery. So what does Unitrends have? Okay, we've seen a lot we can do. Let's talk about the portfolio. The portfolio, very simply, there are recovery series physical appliances. That's our all-in-one. We got the software, we got the storage, we have everything, and the server, the compute, everything you would need to be able to protect your environment in one box. You rack it, you start adding the assets you want, and it's going to be good to go. You want to deploy it on your own software? Totally okay. Use the Unitrends backup software where you can deploy it on your virtual environment, still back up your entire physical and virtual environment, and you'll be good to go. You can use your own hardware or even deploy on our cloud. Unitrends also has Office 365 protection for your Office 365 emails, SharePoint, OneDrive with unlimited retention. We even have a tool to be able to get your VMware up to AWS or Azure quickly and back again. So where does it fit? We're going to focus mostly on the all-in-one solution. You deploy either the virtual appliance or the Unitrends Recovery Series appliance in your environment. You can log in, very easy to manage, an all-in-one interface. I'm going to actually go ahead and show you a bit of that now. This here is actually the dashboard, HTML5, customizable tile set, so I can move around the different pieces. If I want to find out information of what's being backup copied to a hot target, I can put that here. I can go ahead and I can adjust which tiles are viewed. I can see what was recovered, and I can easily reset it again. So I have the information I want or need right at my fingertips, and entities I can click and find out what went wrong. Here you can see there's no errors, but if I click here, take me right to the error report, and I'll be able to view the log of what happened with that. Okay, on the left, you have the different protect, recover, the different functions you want to perform, so with the information about the storage and what I'm using here. So, great. You turned it on, you gave it an IP, and you're able to manage it right from within any HTML5 compatible web browser. From there, it's all about protection. So first things first is Unitrends offers protection for physical servers, virtual servers, that we can do SIPs, NFS, and NDMP protection, as well as most, if not all, of your applications. We offer agent-based protection for physical and virtual servers. We'll deploy an agent, back up the files you choose, and we will compress those and deduplicate them all within the same job process, efficiently utilizing our storage or your storage and landing them, and you can recover those individual files. With virtual environments, VMware, Hyper-V, and Zen Server, we can take snapshots back up those snapshots, recover individual files out of them, or recover the whole virtual machine. We also can mount to, as I mentioned, SIS, NFS, or NDMP, grab those files, recover them as needed, and even application protection. We can do SQL, Exchange, Oracle, SharePoint, along with any backup file you can dump from an application. And with the 4 that we mentioned, we can do quiescing of those databases, grab the database file, recover those databases, recover individual emails, whatever you need to be able to do in your recovery scenario. We'll be able to customize and get you a disaster recovery plan within your RTOs. Let's take a look at how that looks. So here's our environment. I want to set up a new backup job. Under Protect, this is where I can see what I'm protecting, what I'm backing up. The green check mark means it was a successful backup. Red exclamation means a failed backup. Yellow question mark means there were some warnings. I can see the VMware environment, my Hyper-V environment. Simply like going through, and I can actually add these super easily. Just simply require the credentials, and then all of the VMs are going to appear. To create a new backup job, I can either click here, or I can go to the Jobs tab where I can view all of my currently running backup jobs. I simply create a new backup job, give it a title. The title will be title. And I select what type of backup I want to perform. I can even automatically include new assets. Let's do VMware, for example. Here I can drop down, see all of them. I can automatically include new VMs. So I'm going to say these VMs are going to be a part of this backup. I can edit and select which virtual disks are included. Let me find with multiple. So here I can say, nope, just the one disk. And then once I have it selected, I set the schedule. This is how often I'm going to be running these backups. So we'll pull out to the vCenter, request a snapshot to be created, send it over to us, deduplicate it in line by using CBT if I'm using incrementals, and from there it'll land it on our appliance and ready to recover. So the schedule, fulls and incrementals. I can do a custom. Incremental forever means we take one full, and from there on out forevermore, we will just run incremental backups. And we will build out the synthetic fulls on the Unitrends appliance, but no longer will you have to have the long backup windows of running fulls every weekend. So how often you want it to run, set what report you wanted to go to, hit save, that job is created and it'll appear down here. You can then edit it, add it, recover it, whatever you need to do. So I can easily add more. So here, for example, is my Hyper-V. I can go ahead and I can edit my Hyper-V schedule, and I can drop here. We're just backing up the one file server. I can go ahead and add these servers. It's going to be on the exact same schedule with the incrementals every Wednesday at 2 a.m. Hit save, that'll be added to it. Okay, backups are great and all, but as everyone knows, a backup solution is only worth its salt if it can recover. And making recover easier in today's less is more world is probably one of the most important things you can do. Here in the recover window, I've got the date range. I can see my types of backups, and I can see all the assets I'm protecting within that date range. I want to recover an individual file, let's say from a file backup. Here's my file server. I can drop down. I can see the backups that are within the last week. I can select one. It looks like we're doing every twice. It's kind of a weird schedule. It's like 3 and 3:30 a.m. and then 3 a.m. again. But we'll select one of them. And I have multiple options. They come to light on the top. I can recover the whole thing. I can recover all the files back to a target of my choosing, or I can choose to recover specific files. From here, I can browse through what those specific files are, see who's important. I'll get Christian's folder. And then from here, I can set up the directory. So this is going to send it right back to the same one, or I can choose to send it to a different server. Here I want to send it to my NAS from my file server, and I simply can have it run, and it'll go to the same directory. I can give it a new directory, hit any commands that I want to run in PowerShell before and after, hit save, that recovery is queued, good, ready to go. With a snapshot, so I've done a snapshot as a virtual machine. Let's go with a different one. Let's go with my SQL server. Here I have all these snapshots I've performed. You can see it says vCenter and a VMware backup. I can select it. I can recover individual files from that by simply coming to, I'll make sure I'm mounted. So come here to recover files. What this will do is it's going to mount it on the Unitrends appliance. It doesn't require any interaction with your production environment. It's going to load it. It's going to spin it up, but not spin it up, but only load it and mount it on our appliance as a file, as a browsable target. And I can go through right here within the interface. I'll be able to select the individual files I want to download and I want to utilize, and I can recover those as needed. So here is the piece. I can browse and download the files within it. And here you can see all the virtual disks. Shouldn't have picked the SQL with all the disks, but they're all mounted. I can select, a specific file, folder I want to recover. And from here, I simply hit download, and it's going to download them right in my browser, so I have those files ready to go as needed. On top of that, too, I can also recover whole applications. So here is my Exchange. I can come right in. Here's all my Exchange 2010 backups. I can recover the whole Exchange database back to another Exchange server. Give it a second to load all the different target options. It'll detect any Exchange server, so I can recover from one to another. Here I can do it to the Exchange server or to another asset. I do only have the one. Give it the directory, and here, give the directory for the Exchange, and then from there you'll be able to save, and it'll recover that Exchange database to the other target. So a lot of great options, a lot of flexibility, and that's kind of the point. The last thing I want to show off is our instant recovery capabilities. So we showed a lot of ways you can recover the file. Those are your day-to-day, those are your important pieces, but they're not the vital, like, oh no, everything's hit the fan, we need to be able to recover. That's where this kind of comes into play, our instant recovery. VMware, Hyper-V, and Windows Instant Recovery come standard with every Unitrends appliance. You come in here, I'm going to do a VM Instant Recovery. What this does is going to recover this snapshot instant, but instead of waiting for the migration to occur of all the data on the snapshot and bring it up, because those virtual disks can be pretty big, those VMDKs, what this will do instead is it's going to mount the VMDK to the host I select here, and then select the resource pool, the data store, and what this will do is it'll use storage vMotion or live migration with Hyper-V to migrate it over to the secondary target in time while it is spun up. This means you're going to have the VM up and running in less than 5 minutes while running on your Tier 2 or 3 storage being migrated to your production Tier 1 storage. What a great way to be able to integrate all of your pieces and be able to recover as needed. You can kind of come right in here and be able to view it and see it very easily. Windows Instant Recovery works very similarly, where I can select a physical Windows server that I'm doing an agent protection with. So here's my file server. I can select, I want to actually spin this up on a host, and I want to utilize the resources of that host in case of a disaster. So this will create a standby version of that Windows machine, and it can be up and running in less than 5 minutes after a disaster occurs, and you'll be able to use that application. That physical server will literally become a virtual machine. It's an instant P2V recovery. Here I can select the storage, which network, IP address, give it the one. And I can give it the gateway. And from here, I'll be able to give it how much resources I want to use when it's actually spun up. And every time a backup occurs, this asset will be protected. It's a great, really quick and really easy way to be able to ensure your recovery times. And you can set this for, whatever servers you want, whatever resources you have to be able to utilize. This will be able to match and adjust what you need to be able to do. So that was the meat and potatoes of what we can do. We showed how easy it is to deploy, how easy it is to be able to manage, start backups, start recovery, see all the different pieces, showing you how we can protect physical servers, virtual servers, NAS, applications, and how easy it is to recover all those pieces in a disaster, in a I deleted my PowerPoint, I don't know where it is scenario, whatever the case may be. From there, though, that's not everything. As we just talked about with ransomware, it's great to have backups, it's great to have recovery, but that's not encapsulating the whole solution. Being able to recover is good, but what if you lose your only site? What if you lose the local appliance, which to date has not happened with Unitrends, but I don't want to rule that out as a possibility. You need to be prepared for all contingencies. And that's where backup copy comes into play. What better way to ensure that you can recover than to have a copy of what you need to recover? Unitrends offers backup copy to a cold target. These are assets or appliances that you can copy to, take them off site, keep them disconnected, whatever you might need to do. The RxDA is a Unitrends hard drive dock with 4 ports. You put in the hard drives, it copies backups to them, and then those get taken off site super easily. Now you can also copy to a LUN on a stand. We can even copy out to some tape appliances as well. So you have a lot of options to be able to explore and be able to provide. On top of that, Unitrends also has a replication, so basically backup copy to a hot target, where Unitrends will be able to copy data from your local appliance to a secondary appliance, be able to match and hash against what you're trying to do and see on the other side, and it can all be tested with our reliable VR, our recovery assurance. So boom, I'm using my efficient WAN optimized replication to get it either to another Unitrends appliance that you manage, or you're deploying at a colo or data center or an Azure, AWS, or you're utilizing the Unitrends Cloud. The Unitrends Cloud, we provide the infrastructure, we provide the 24/7 support. You replicate it over to us, and we will keep that data forever. We'll keep the last 7 dailies, 4 weeklies, 12 monthlies, and infinite yearlies in our cloud. And in case of a disaster, we also have the ability to do disaster recovery as a service. You select which servers you need to spin up in case of a disaster, and you can call in and we'll spin them up for you once you declare those disasters. Great way to reduce the RTO, and frankly, a great way to reduce the need you have in your architecture. You don't have to be managing, deploying, and paying for a secondary site. You call Unitrends and you go back to reading your book, always spin up and do all the hard work for you by getting your machines back and online. So a lot of options to be able to get your stuff off site, and super easy to be able to manage and deploy. Going back to the interface, I basically just need to set up a new job, a backup copy job, where what I do is I select which assets, that's what Unitrends calls what we're protecting, and I set up a schedule. If I'm going to some kind of local target, like that local disk drive or a NAS, I would use this kind of scheduling. I select what types of backups, how old I want that data to be, and how often I want it to run. Every day seems a little silly, but maybe like one Saturday every week or every other week, set up like this, and this will be able to, so every other Saturday you're going to run and copy full backups to my NAS. I can also test to make sure there's enough room to be able to do it, and it'll detect, determine, and see if this is possible. I can also choose which of my backups to do. Alternatively, if I want to do a backup copy to hot target, go over the WAN, don't want any human interaction, no schedule required. Why is that, you ask? After every single backup you perform, Unitrends is going to attempt to replicate that across the wire. It's going to send that data across using the optimized replication we were just discussing, to be able to receive it, recover it at the secondary site just like you were locally. You can easily download your data from the cloud. You can easily recover things in the cloud as well. You simply come to recover, do the backup copies to a hot target, and you can come in and you'll be able to view all the different pieces you're sending. So here you can see my hot target. I can import them, bring that backup back, or I can even recover those pieces depending on what they are. So here, for example, if we have a VM running, here we've got some VMs. I can then recover files that are on this VM that's not even local. A lot of great options to be able to meet whatever your needs are. And if you're using the Unitrends public cloud, that stuff will be remote, and you can download that as needed. So you don't even need to wait to download it or need to go back to your archives. You can simply use Unitrends to be able to grab that. So a lot we went over. We talked about how you can protect all your stuff. We talked about how you can recover it. How you can get it off site in case of a disaster. A lot of options to be able to kind of meet all of your needs. And lastly, and certainly not leastly, being able to protect and ensure you can recover using recovery assurance. Unitrends has our tool called Recovery Assurance, where we can go and we can test the recoverability of different machines. Here I can see under my demo, I've got one VM that I'm testing its recoverability down to the application level, and I'm running that test every single day. So it looked like I tried running it about a little over a week ago. My actual recovery time takes about 2.5 minutes, which is within my stated RTO of 30 minutes. And I can actually generate a report that tells me my recoverability and if anything went wrong, where it went wrong, and how to be able to accomplish that. It's a great way to be able to ensure your recoverability and to be able to make any auditor feel comforted that you're able to recover in those kind of disaster scenarios. So it's a lot of options, a lot of strength, and I really think a lot of time to be able to give back to you in our less is more kind of world. An all-in-one solution where you don't have to go through and do recovery testing all the time. You can simply use our solution to be able to meet all of your disaster needs. And you don't have to take my word for it. A bunch of customers are super happy with Unitrends, what we're capable of doing. It's really being able to recover. It's really being able to combat the issues that can arise with ransomware and all sorts of other pieces. And it's all just getting down to our 4 basic tenets. It's basically protecting everything you have, being able to provide that continuity, guaranteeing that recovery, and all in all within a single intuitive platform. I really appreciate your time and interest in Unitrends. This is what it really boils down to, providing that security and providing that reliable recovery. If you like what you saw, by all means, we'll be following up with you. But feel free to follow us on all sorts of these social medias. We've got all of the social medias. I'll be happy to hear from you, talk to you on there. I try to get involved on our own community as well, our own forum, but definitely have seen some people on Spiceworks and some YouTube comments. So I want to thank you so much for your attention and your patience. I'm going to turn it back over to Kevin to finish up any housekeeping or Q&A that we might have. Kevin, take it away.
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, we had a lot of questions that come in, so we'll just dive right in here. There's still time to ask questions. If you do want to ask a question, type it into the bottom right of the player, and we'll get to your questions as we go here. First question is, we recently installed Unitrends Recovery 606 appliances. With them being LAN connected, would they be susceptible to share hopping nature of most of these ransomware deployments?
So the Unitrends appliances aren't presenting their shares. So it's not necessarily getting a, you're just as vulnerable as anything else that's connected on the network if they're all within the same LAN. The big difference is that we're not actually having open shares. There is a Samba share, but frankly, that's not where the meat of your backups are kept. So they'd have to be able to break into the actual backup store itself and be able to get that. So no, I don't think it's vulnerable to share hopping just like any other device would be. However, the shares aren't necessarily being presented, which might protect it in those scenarios where it's looking for all open network connections that are available on the network and just trying their best to encrypt them. Good question.
Okay. Next question is, let's see. Can the appliance back up physical boxes? During a restore, can you restore to physical or virtual depending on hardware failure or whatever?
Yeah, so we have the agent level protection, which we kind of went over probably a little later on. What you can do there is the agent can be deployed on those physical servers. You're backing up the files, you're backing up folders, even the applications, and then you can do a instant recovery into your virtual environment or use a bare metal image, that ISO, to recover back to, dissimilar hardware. A lot of options to be able to do, inject the drivers, and you can bring that server back from the dead, just like Lazarus.
Okay. The next one is, can you have 2 appliances in different locations and replicate the backups off-site? Does this require another license?
It just, with our physical appliances, that's included. You just simply make sure you have enough room, replicate between them, you're good to go. If you're looking to do something a little more, if you're looking to do with software, there is some licensing, but we'll be happy to walk through that. But yes, you can very easily replicate data between sites to make sure that you're covered for whatever you need to do.
Okay. Is there any software or IDS that checks file integrity and notify if a file start getting encrypted?
From the backup side, no. What we will do is we will verify that whatever we're backing up is landed. We can do that with the verify option, but you shouldn't have. If you start getting encrypted on one of your backups, all of them will be. So it wouldn't be that effective. You need to be doing that on your live data, and that's some kind of antivirus or live scanner you should be using, independent of your backup and recovery solution.
Okay. Let's see. Here's a question from a current customer. They have an older appliance. Is the GUI that you shared, is that available with an update?
Yes, you can update pretty much all the older appliances to get this new one. You require 9.0, CentOS 6. If you have issues or want to upgrade to it, I strongly recommend you opening a support ticket. We'll be happy to help you do that.
Okay. And how does ransomware affect VMware? Does it go after SAN?
Great question. Today, it's going in at the GOS level. That's what the majority of them are doing. Is they're basically going in at the guest level and just encrypting the files. Snapshots, fortunately, are a great way to be able to combat that, but I would not be surprised if we start to see soon, I mean, I don't want to say that that's the major way. If the SAN is exposed and is shown as a network share, which can happen in some configurations, you would be able to start seeing encryption of all the VMDKs and things like that, and you could end up with zombie VMs that don't have, you know, the storage associated with them. But most commonly, we see the ransomware affecting at the guest level. But I would not be surprised if we start to see some targets that are specifically for those SANs that do have the VMs. Not something to super worry about today. More so focus on your networking and your limiting user access. That's one of the easiest ways that you can see execution and other problems is where users are able to, where if a user can access it, then ransomware can access it. That's the way you need to be thinking.
Okay, next question. When will you support VM backups that reside in a KVM HCI setup?
We support that today. You are able to deploy agents on those VMs and back them up using the agent to, you know, get all the files, and you can recover using the ISO that you would get from there. That being said, we do expect to have Linux KVM support coming up for Nutanix and other Linux KVM hypervisors probably within the next few months. Stay tuned. We'll definitely be making several announcements about that.
Okay, and here's a question that you might have just answered, but does Unitrends support Nutanix Acropolis hypervisor?
Yes, we support it today. We can deploy agents. However, in terms of doing hypervisor backups, we're doing snapshots. That's not yet. That's coming out very shortly.
All right, next question. Can Unitrends take care of the multiple backup location with one step?
It is possible to do. It depends on the configuration. We'll need to go into more detail about your environment. Usually, and the majority of the way Unitrends is deployed, is one appliance per local site. And then from there, you can recover and replicate as needed. However, if the network is strong enough and the data is small enough, we do support some WAN-based backups. But it's very circumstantial depending on the environment. We're happy to go over that and help you.
All right. How is software licensing handled per server CPU, or some other way?
Sure. The software licensing is handled per socket of what you're trying to protect and per physical server you're trying to protect. So that's the majority of it, and then you have a different addition based on the features and functionality you're looking to accomplish.
Okay, next question is, what are the costs involved with the Unitrends cloud?
Cloud is licensed based on the size of the data you're protecting. There is no charge on how much storage you're using in the cloud. There's no charge on getting the data up. There's no charge on getting the data out. Solely based on the price of the size of the data that you have in the environment. So we may look slightly more expensive than other solutions, but you're not paying for the storage. You're paying for the source data, and we're going to keep that data forever. So we're going to be footing the storage bill independently, which normally you would have to pay for with other solutions. We're going to cover that, and you'll be able to just manage it based on how much data you're looking to back up.
Okay. Can I use Unitrends to back up my servers and duplicate those copies to an outside NAS, for instance? The idea is not having data outside of control over the cloud.
Kind of. You'll need to use QNAP replication for that, or it depends on the connection to the CEO's house. That's a great one to take offline and with our representatives that will be following up with everyone to kind of see, and maybe we can get some more answers, more specifics about that. It is possible, but more commonly we see one Unitrends appliance at each site and doing kind of like the cross-replication. It depends on how big your data is.
Okay. Next question is, are the backups stored locally on the appliance? If so, how large can the appliance scale? Can you choose the storage target for the backups?
With our physical appliance, the only option you have is to put those backups locally, which meets most, if not all, your needs. The largest appliances are upwards of 100, 200, 300 terabytes, and you can easily combine multiple appliances to work together, so there's really no limit on how large it can be. The petabytes, whatever the case may be. If you're in the Zada or Yada bytes, maybe look at something else. And I think that, yeah, that answers all the questions.
Okay, next one is, how does Unitrends address the rule of three?
Great question. First is Unitrends can back up, so there you're creating a copy of your data. The second is Unitrends creating a new format. You can put it onto a removable hard drive. You can put it onto tape. It's also not live data, so that's a different version, and it's able to get it off-site via replication or via going in, grabbing the disk, and taking that off-site yourself.
Okay. What is the bandwidth needs between two units?
There's no the dictation. There's no minimum bandwidth. The dictation is how much data you're trying to send between them. You can run the numbers yourself. It's efficient, and we try to be and we concede, which is a huge advantage over some of our competitors. But in terms of the specific minimum bandwidth, we don't have one. So we just need to look at how much you're trying to replicate to make sure that you have enough bandwidth to be able to replicate what you're trying to.
Okay. What is the integration with Oracle running on Linux like? Can it integrate to put the database in a recoverable state, perform the backup, and release the database back to production status, or is it just disk snapshot based?
Great. We can. That's a great question to kind of follow up with. We have specific integration we can do with Oracle. We can take general snapshots and try to use the built-in VMware tools to quiesce the VM. With the physical server, we do have some RMAN support. You should check out our compatibility matrix to see more details about what version of stuff we can support and what we can do, or ask with your follow-up representative to see what we can help you with.
All right. How long of a successful track record does Unitrends have?
Unitrends has been a company for, gosh, over 26 years, 28 years, sorry. Yeah, we've been around since 1989. So one of the longest track records out there. We're still around. We're still protecting tons of environments, and I feel like we have a very good track record. I've been around for a while, and hopefully that is comforting to know that we could do that.
All right. Besides Unitrends cloud storage, I see there are backup copy target options for using Google Cloud, Amazon S3, and Rackspace. Are there plans to add others? If so, which are planned?
Sure. We can do Azure, and Azure is the one that we've added recently. I'm not sure if we have any more planned for now. Those are the big hitters that we can use, protect, and be able to recover too.
All right. Does your instant recovery feature work just as well with Nutanix as it does with VMware and Hyper-V?
With Nutanix, it depends on which configuration you're running, but yeah, the Nutanix Acropolis we don't have support for today, but with VMware and Hyper-V and Nutanix, you do have the exact same feature that you would with any other VMware or Hyper-V host. It's kind of, fortunately, it's agnostic about the hardware with those kind of recoveries.
All right. Does Unitrends support AWS Azure clouds?
We support Azure today, and AWS should be coming out within the next few weeks. We can beta it today if you're interested, but yes, we can deploy agents within your VMs, or even just use AWS or Azure as a replication target.
Next question is, how scalable is the appliance? What is the minimum size of this appliance?
Minimum size, I think the smallest we can do is, oh gosh, with the software we can do with customers in the 1 to 500 gigabyte range. So there's really I don't think there's a minimum limit at all. It really just depends on how much data you're looking to protect and if it's the right solution, feature set, and price point you're looking for.
All right, we're just about out of time here, so just another question, and then we'll wrap it up. What kind of access control what kind of access control can be set up for backups and restore jobs for an enterprise where there could be separate teams requiring separate access?
Sure. We are releasing even more role-based access in the near future, but as of today, we do offer AD integration, and you can do monitor, manage, and administrative, or even just view roles today, so you can make sure that there is no cross-contamination. And if you're interested in that, we will have even more configurations, and you can use with the AD to be able to do specific features and limitations as needed. That's a great question, and make sure to ask that with a follow-up. We'll be happy to share more details and see how we can fit what you're trying to accomplish.
Excellent. Okay, we're just about out of time. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. We will be pulling the $500 Amazon gift card winner and notifying them via email. I'll also send up a follow-up email within the next day or so that'll have a link to the on-demand version of this webinar so that you can watch it again if you choose. Thanks again, everybody. Appreciate your time and your questions, and we'll see you on a future webinar. Take care.
Bye.